Welcome to She Loves the Grid, where we discuss all things F1. And here we are, just days out from a race. We are recording a little late because welcome back to She Loves the Grid. I'm Claire with a raspy voice because we're recording a day late because I've been sick.
And hello, Dianne. Sounds good though. It sounds good. I'm Dianne.
It's extra raspy, extra sexy, I guess. I don't know.
There you go. Claire's got her sexy sick voice on.
Now we are just since it's Monday, we're recording and we'll release
it
from Tuesday. We're just a few days away, even closer to race week.
Oh my God, it's finally race week. I woke up this morning, I was like, oh, it's race week. It's race week. And do you know what else? It's back-to-back race week. We go back to back. Yes. Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. And woo, I can't believe it. I'm so excited.
I am too. Well, let's get started. Our usual. How was your week?
Good. It was a busy. I feel like the last 3 weeks have just been super busy doing lots of fun things. But this weekend, I didn't do a whole lot because I needed to catch up. Like, I needed to catch up on my Italian lessons. I needed to catch up on cleaning my house, like TV, which we'll talk about here in just a second. So, yeah, it was really kind of a nice weekend to just chill. What about you?
You know, after the trip to and from the U.S. this last week has been a little slow. I'm actually on sick leave from work because I've done something to my back. So for those who are on YouTube, you may see me just barely able to move. It's a little odd. So on top of getting a cold, I can barely turn my head. So I've been kind of a lazy bump of the vlogs. It's kind of been nice. Sleeping in late, not doing much.
Yeah.
Waiting on tests. So German healthcare system's been amazing though. So I've been enjoying that. But yeah, and then catching up on what we'll be talking about, Drive to Survive. So yeah. And the hours and hours of testing, just hours and hours.
Oof, I know. Oh my goodness. Well, we'll get to that too. But let's talk about Drive to Survive. I don't think we'll give any spoilers. I've been online, especially this morning, and it seems like everybody spent the weekend watching it. So if for some reason you did not watch Drive to Survive this weekend and you don't want spoilers, even though it's basically a recap of what happened last year, fast forward.
Fast forward.
Yeah. Fast forward a smidge. Okay. What were your thoughts, just overall?
Yeah. So, we talked briefly before we got to recording. I do think it was better than last season. I still don't. I mean, I have to say, I appreciate the first few seasons because I hadn't been watching F1, so it really caught me up to speed of what was going on. But for someone, if you're brand new to the sport, it's still not a good season to start with. There's so much missing, and there were so many big things. It was interesting watching it, having watched the season live.
Yeah.
And there's so much missing. And I know there was controversy after the first few seasons, like with Max and others saying that, they over dramatize things, they misrepresent and whatnot. And I don't think there's a lot of that this season, but they just left out some of the most important things that happened, some of the key things. And then they answered a few things, which I thought was interesting, like, like the lack of bromance on the Alpine team and whatnot. And, but there was just so many things that were, I don't know, odd, just to me, odd. Fun fact though, in the episode with, where they talk about Las Vegas, the back of the head of the choreographer who's telling them what to do, he's got a little bit of gray in his hair. That is Napoleon Dumo. Shout out to Napoleon from Nabby Tabs. He taught my son a million years ago and dance and whatnot. We know him. He and his wife wished my son a happy birthday for his 25th birthday video. So cool that Nabby Tabs got to do that choreography. They have choreographer for like J-Lo and Beyonce and all that kind of stuff. So they're amazing. So he was labeled as man in the speaking.
Is that what it said? I missed that.
It just said man. So if they weren't an actual F1 person, everybody was just man, woman.
Oh.
So it just said man, but you can hear Napoleon speak. So I just want to give a big shout out to Napoleon.
Oh, that's funny.
He's an awesome individual, and it was just so cool to see him. The back of his head. And I knew his voice. I knew it was him. Anyway,
That is so
So fun fact for me is I personally know somebody who was in.
That's a great fun fact.
Yeah,
I
I think it
love
was
it.
missing a lot of
Ugh.
key things. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I don't feel like there was the extra drama. I thought it was better than last year, even though this year they only covered 5 races. I kind of might need to go back to the first season because I feel like they talked about more races last or like in the first season, or they were at more races, or they had footage for more races. I don't know, but it was like the same 5 races, and then you were just seeing different clips of it. So I don't think that there was a lot of drama, and I thought that they were going to do like one episode per team, but they didn't. Um, there was like an episode and a half of Alpine. There was a smidge of, I think it was, well, now they're Visa, whatever, Cash App, Red Bull team. Nothing about Alfa Romeo, but we were just talking beforehand, and I said, well, we didn't talk about Alfa Romeo that often on the podcast either, except to say they slide under the radar. You kind of just forget they're there. So maybe the Netflix team was like, yeah. I mean, there was nothing phenomenal about their season
Oh,
at
like
all.
you were saying, they skipped out on so many key things, like the Fernando train and
Yes.
the rise and immediate fall and then comeback of Checo, and they didn't even talk about Max's championship. Like,
Not until the very end, and only Christian Horner. So this is what one thing I thought was interesting was that neither Max nor Checo obviously agreed to participate, but Christian Horner was all over that thing. And at the very, very end of that last episode, he just it's like a sentence or two where he says, Max's amazing season and the Red Bull like record breaking season, and that's it. Like that's it. I think you also, like you just said, there was no talk about the Fernando hype train. Why not? Fernando's been around forever. That's an awesome story. How everybody was jumping on, and they basically showed what, like one podium for him, maybe two, but it wasn't even focused on him. And then, but it's also a great story. The fall of Aston Martin, just like I was so disappointed when at the end of episode 2 when they're talking about McLaren and how bad they're doing, and then they show Lando doing well at Silverstone. I literally wrote down there better be more, because when they hit their stride, which really was Silverstone, how they leapt, because they showed that leaderboard right at the beginning of that episode, like they're way down here, they leapt up. Like, where was all of that? Where was Oscar, the rookie, to win a sprint? Like, where, where was that
it
info?
was even
That's all a
here.
great story. An amazing
Yeah.
story.
And then I mean, I have mixed emotions. I think it's kind of cool because I mean, they had the footage. I guess they didn't know it was going to happen, but they focused so much on Gunther, right? And
Yeah.
his book tour and all that kind of stuff. But then just at the very end, and his contract wasn't renewed in 2024.
I know. Which Netflix is not happy about. Of course they put him in there a lot because he was gold for them last year. Like,
Yeah.
that was one of the saving graces of that terrible season was Gunter. And I did love him and bringing in Mattia. At Mattia's, I don't know if he has a winery, but his grape vineyard. Um, Loved that because I think those two are great together. I got to like practice some of my Italian. I couldn't understand everything that they were saying, but I could pick stuff up to kind of get the idea. But yeah, the other thing I felt bad for was seeing Nick DeVries again and then Otmar. Like, I think we found out more about what happened with Otmar leaving than we even knew. Like, we knew he got kicked out, at the but who was the guy? Is it the new principal that saw him in the paddock and was like, thank you, blah, blah, good luck. He goes, that's life. And you could see Otmar's face is like, what?
I know. That was so awkward.
Oh, that was so
One of
awkward.
the things they did think, which I thought props. I don't know if they meant it to be this way, but a cinematic, dramatic, whatever ploy maybe. The dichotomy between Boyles and Gunter, because you had Gunther just dropping F-bombs, F-bombs, F-bombs. And then Foles is like, I don't think I've raised my voice in over like however many years it's been. Like, so
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting them being in you. I don't know if they purposely did that, but the compare and contrast between these two different people. I thought that was like, I see you, Netflix. Are you
Yeah.
trying to do a little bit of compare and contrast there?
That's
I
such
can
a
see
great
that.
point because James is very like even keel. Like I just feel like he does yoga and he just meditates and stuff like that. And Gunther
You said
is
you
like
drink
totally
caffeine
different.
once a week because the caffeine, you get used to it and it only gets effective if you have caffeine. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
That was,
That's one of the things I love about James is he's a nerd, but in like the best way. And I feel like he says it, he is an engineer, which I think is so important because you have some people that are not engineers and in there running those teams. And I don't know. I mean, leadership comes in different ways, but he can take it to the next level, I think, as a team principal.
I did it. I did enjoy the coverage they did in and around Italy for Ferrari, and
Yeah.
some of that was kind of cool. That they
Yeah.
featured some fans and whatnot, some on location kind of stuff
Yeah.
like that. I love some of the snide comments, funny and snide comments from different people about like, the boom. Well, they've got you basically you're taking a poop and there's a boom mic over the bathroom stall.
Lewis kept saying, again, I don't remember how much he participated in the past. I feel like it wasn't as much as this time, but Lewis was one of those. But I loved how transparent he was. Like he was so just in talking about his contract and what he wanted to do. And I feel like you could really, especially the conversation between Lewis and Toto, they were sitting down, I think, in like Toto's office. It just seemed like it must have been such a hard decision for Lewis to make that choice to leave Mercedes. Granted, we didn't know when that was just for his contract last year when we were all like, why are they not announcing it? What's happening there? There was a lot of angst happening behind the scenes. A lot.
It was really interesting to watch that, knowing that, yeah, we signed this 2-year contract. Psych.
Yeah, right. To your contract with a out after 1 year. So like that's the part they forgot to tell us.
I don't think it was an awful season for Drive to Survive. Was it their worst? Season 5 still their worst. Definitely wasn't their best. Like you said, I learned some. I think what we got out of it, which is what a cool thing is, you got some behind the scenes stuff. What I wish we'd gotten more was a little more technical behind the scenes
Yeah.
and a little more coverage across the teams for kind of that education aspect of it. But the drama of stuff sells, and maybe they were trying to have some kind of, here, let's sit down and share some tea without being too dramatic because they got all the backlash of making up too much drama, right? So maybe that's kind of where it was at. They were trying to, because especially when they went into like the Ocon and Gasly kind of stuff, and then having to get them. I didn't realize that they got called into basically the principal's office and told to straighten up. Which was interesting.
Yeah. Well, their battles on track were, and I mean, Ocon is like they said, he's done that with his past teammates too. Is like, come on, it's crazy.
You're running $1 million cars.
Yes, exactly. And I thought that speaking of compare and contrast, and we didn't get to hear the whole conversation, but knowing they were called to the principal's office and the different things that were being said about them racing against each other, and then Fred's dinner, lunch, whatever, with Charles and Carlos after they competed head to head, that race that was just stressing me out beyond belief in Monza. And it was totally, like, yeah, you're right. We probably shouldn't. And I'm like, that just seems so Italian. They're sitting there over a meal, having a conversation, talking about like, that's not what's best for the team. You're right. Let's go get it in Singapore. And then you've got Alpine over here racing each other, and they get called to the principal's office and we can't hear what they're saying. So
I thought that was really interesting that they didn't let us in on what was being said. So I'm like, there were some butts being chewed.
I think so. Like
the other funny thing I thought, And I know you've got some quotes. You were like, what's like some of your favorite quotes and stuff?
Yes. Tell me your favorite scenes or quotes.
So one of my favorites, what I thought is I always think it was really cute how Lando kept calling Piastri a kid. I'm like, you're 2 years apart in age. Like, what the hell? Like, you're such a kid. You're such a young one. You're so young. You're so, I'm like, I had to go look it up. I'm like, you're 2 years apart in age.
Yes.
You're 24. He's 22. You have no right to call him a kid.
Uh,
What the heck?
maybe he's thinking like kid is because I mean Lando's been in F1 for a minute now, so maybe that's it. But yeah, there was another quote where in the car and he's like, he may be young, but he's not dumb. Like, oh, Lando was the breakout this year because he had some quotes.
Yeah.
He had some quotes. The one about Lance, freaking hysterical. And that must be one of those like they didn't know the boom mic was right over them.
Like they said, that boom just shows up out of anywhere.
Yep. Lando, I think, had some great quotes this go around.
Speaking of that, it was really neat getting the insight on Lance's wrist, and I didn't realize how we talked about that. We talked about during that race that he has to be in so much pain. It's like I've broken a wrist before. I've broken. He's got to be in so much pain. I didn't realize his toe was broken that he used for the gas. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember the toe, or I also did not know like that the brake is like solid. I mean, not solid, but like it's really hard. Like you really have to push it. And same with the gas because he had 2 broken toes, right? It was like both. I think both feet. Like holy.
Well, I think the brake's on the steering wheel, isn't it?
No, they have pedals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I didn't realize his broken toe, and then he was like his wrist, and that part was very eye-opening. I mean, we talked about he's got to be in pain, but openly you didn't hear it, but then behind the scenes you see that, and I have to say, as much as like Papa Stroll can come across as uncaring and this big, egotistical kind of billionaire and whatnot, the amount of care he showed about his son was heartwarming. Like, going to him, making sure his wrists are okay. How much pain are you in? Him and his mom. That was nice to see that too.
Yeah. I think that they have a good, father-son relationship. There was one point when Lance said, what did he say at the beginning of that race? Something about he needed to do it for his dad, or, he wanted to make his dad proud. Something to that effect, where I was like, dude, your dad would probably be okay with you not being out here. I get the pressure that, you guys have done so much work and this happened, but I do think that Papa Stroll comes across like outside of the family part of things as very grumpy and like everybody's scared of him. And like, I don't know, just all of
even at the event, they showed him that big posh event, they're putting on wristbands. He's like, I don't need a wristband. I'm like, oh, just the cockiness there. But then when you see him with this kid, and as soon as he found out about the wreck, like you could see the sheer panic in his face, like the sheer like, and we're going to do everything we can. Like the racing didn't matter to him at that point. Like all he cared about was his kid. Yeah, and that was cool to see. Like, not that I would question that, but it was nice to see it, and displayed, and he was okay. And he was okay with them putting that in the episode too. Yes. So that was really awesome.
I think that was really, really good. Zach Brown just annoys me. I feel like he did not come across well in this in this series. Ugh. When he said at the beginning, I think he introduced himself, and I don't know, he made some comment about, I don't have to see a lot of the dickheads I see in the racing season. I was like, really? I mean, even if that's how you feel, you just sound like a douchebag. Are we allowed to say
that? I thought he was trying to he is trying to reinvent himself a little bit. I couldn't tell because every time he was dressed up in his suit, I had a hard time recognizing him.
Oh. Was he dressed in a suit often? I think I remember once.
Some of the interviews he would do, without the name, I was like, is that? He just looked different than when he's in his other gear. All the other people, I could tell them he's like, for some reason, he just looked different to me dressed up.
Oh.
versus when he's out on the grid and it's orange versus
Interesting.
papaya.
Yeah. I don't
So
know. I just feel like whatever he says
I'm
is
gonna keep saying orange because that was part of the commentator said is according to Pantone, it's not papaya.
it's papaya. We're calling it papaya. I call it papaya. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I mean, I agree with Zach on the whole like Red Bull should not have two teams. Like we need to
Yeah.
do away with that. That I do agree on. But he just seems to, I don't know. Seems like he wants to go in there. And I want to know what Papa Stroll sent to Zach because he would not say it on there. And I was like, I hope Papa Stroll put him in his place because I feel like Zach comes in like, I'm a big American man. Like, and yeah, I was gonna say something else, but never mind. And so I want to know what he said. He was too scared to say it on TV. Too scared. Yeah, Papa Stroll. This is why we love you. Like, put him in his place. Anyways, it was good. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, go watch it. It's good for the entertainment. And you know what? Since we haven't had a race in a while, it was great to get back. I found myself cheering, like during some of the overtakes and, some of the different things. There is a lot missing. Part of me was kind of like, maybe it's just too hard for people that maybe just stumble upon the show to explain. But I think that there were like goes more toward the technical side. But I think that there were more stories, especially that Americans love, right? Like the underdog coming back, the comeback story, or the decline story. Like I think especially Americans love both of those. And we had that. And then you have the rookie winning a sprint race. Like that would have been another great story that you could have continued with the whole McLaren like rise out of the ashes, right? Like all of those would have been great stories. The disqualifications, like that would have been a great story. I think even the heat, which agreed, it would make F1 not look good. But the race in Qatar where the heat just wiped everybody out. Like I think that's kind of an interesting storyline. Like these drivers, what they do, I think they missed an opportunity to talk about how what they do is so hard, but they pushed and they were stumbling out of their cars. Again, I get that it would make them look bad, but that's an interesting story. Like
Exactly.
I think that there's so much stuff that they missed that could have drawn people in a little bit more. A little bit more that would be like, I'm new, but hey, this team started here and now they're here. What's going to happen this year? I want to know. Are they going to like that's the kind of stuff that if you want to draw more people into the sport, that's what you need. That's what
I
you
agree.
need. So
I agree.
you can hire me to consult next year at Netflix. Just saying. I just think they missed out on some good stories to focus on stuff that they could have talked about. I mean, I don't know. Pierre and Ocon, okay, we've been around for a while. They tried with Nico and Kevin, and they were both like, well, we grew up, we're dads. So there's not a problem there. Like, I think they were trying to find some stuff, but there wasn't a whole lot.
No,
And they just spent too much time on it. So
I agree.
anyway,
All right, well, let's get to this. Oh, good.
Before
Yeah.
preseason testing, did you hear? He's back to F1.
No, I'm sick.
So there's two things. Okay, two things. So a German station picked him up and he's going to do commentary starting with Bahrain this week. So he will be doing commentary. I don't know if I'm assuming it's in German. I don't know. But keep an eye out for that, you in Germany. But there was also a rumor that came out that a journalist that Gunter spoke to said that Gunter had found a $20 million sponsor for Haas, which they need sponsors, right? But he told Gene he wanted shares, and Gene said no. So Gunter left. It wasn't Gene letting him go. It was Gunter left because he found yet another sponsor who, again, I'm sure wanted to work with Gunter.
Interesting.
And yeah. So that was from an interview that Gunter did with that journalist. At first, I think Gunter said, no, you can't use it. And then later said, yes, you can. So that journalist has come out and said, I haven't seen anything denying it. So it kind of makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. Anyways, let's talk about preseason testing because both the men and women were testing. I don't have a lot of details about the women, except they were in Jeddah. And Tommy Hilfiger has a car on the grid.
Oh,
Yay!
I missed that. Which one are they sponsoring?
Well, the Tommy Hilfiger car. But
Oh,
but I cannot remember who's driving.
okay.
I know.
Well,
I
we'll
just
see
that
it in
just came out
Barcelona.
this morning. It just came out this morning. So yeah, I
We'll see
know.
it in Barcelona. Woohoo!
Yes,
Yeah.
we will. I know. I love it. I love that. We know that Tommy Hilfiger sponsors Mercedes drivers, right? They're always in Tommy clothes. If you don't know, now you know. To quote Biggie. But anyways, like yes, so now they are sponsoring a car. So now we'll have the Charlotte Tilbury and their car, the Tommy Hilfiger car is his red, white, and blue. So that'll be kind of fun. Anyways, there's a new safety car. Claire has a picture here on our YouTube channel. It's a groovy Aston Martin safety car. Look at that.
It's so cool.
It's got
I
like
love it. I love it.
call that? Like a zebra-ish pattern, random line pattern. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I love it. I mean,
It's black with kind of a teal blue color. Stripe.
yeah,
I mean, you're not going to miss this car on the track. That's for sure. They are
no,
not.
I love the patterns. I love the funkiness to it. It's pretty awesome.
I think it's amazing. Like, have some fun with the safety car. Why not? Especially when so many of the other cars have so much carbon fiber. Like, let's make this car really fun and wild. So, props to whoever came up with that design. I love it. It's amazing.
It's so cool.
Amazing. And who would have thought that we'd have drain issues during testing?
Right? I mean, come on. And for a track that's 28 years old, this is the 20th year we've been at this track.
Yeah. Ridiculous. And it happened twice because I think I missed the second time you had said it. And I'm like, wait, did it happen again?
It happened again on Sunday, on Saturday, rather. So on Saturday, Friday, sorry. My days are blending into being sick and not working. So Friday. And so instead of stopping and then having the break and then adding an hour on, because the first time it happened, they stopped, they had a break, and then they added an hour on the second session and made it a longer session. They just decided to keep broadcasting, let it run. So if you've got an F1 TV subscription, it's a 9-hour broadcast.
Oh my goodness.
And they just kept yammering through. And so like if you ended up running for the day, you just got back out there. And it was interesting when they were switching the cars out, they just got, at one point there was one car on the track just running because there's nobody else out there while people are switching out cars and doing what they got to do. And they got it fixed. But yeah, it's going to be interesting this week and for the race because they've had it fail twice.
I hope we don't have that issue during practice, quali, or the race. Like, come on.
And at least it didn't tear up. I don't think it tore up the floor on the second time, but yeah.
Well, Charles did have to replace his floor. So
and there was a lot of talk about that. There was a lot of talk over the weekend too about how, when Carlos's floor got torn up in Las Vegas and how he took the 10-place grid penalty and all that kind of stuff, and which was so unfair. I mean, to me, this is where they need to look at the rules and be like, if a track causes now, I can be fair about it too. If it's in the track inside the white lines, like in Vegas, and it causes a failure of a car part, and it has to be specific. Like you can't be like, oh, it damaged the floor, so now we're changing the power unit. No.
Yeah, right.
Damage the floor, you change power. You can't change power unit and not get a penalty. But this one I'm iffy on because it's outside the curb. So I know you can go so far over as long as not all four tires are, but technically, you really shouldn't be going outside the lines. So I could see this one, the FI, we give compromise. Let's say if it's inside the white lines and it damages the car, that part of the track should be pristine because that tells the drivers, hey, don't go outside the freaking lines.
Yes.
Because then you have a higher chance of a penalty because those curves a lot of times are spiky anyway. But yeah,
Mm.
this was interesting.
Yeah. Let's hope it doesn't happen during any of the practice, quali, race. We definitely can't have that. I think this year, probably more than other years, I just don't know where some of these teams are going to line up, except for Red Bull, right? Like, I just don't know what this constructor is going to look like, but definitely Red Bull. I mean, when Max is happy, it's good, right? Max looked fast. He had some fast times, for sure. Somebody at Red Bull said they were joyous and happy. That I don't remember if that was an engineer, but somebody within Red Bull said they were joyous and happy after preseason testing. And Max said the car is reacting better than last year's car. That's scary. That's scary. And
Yeah,
Alonso was like, yeah, there's 19 drivers right now that there's less of a chance for anybody else to win a race.
yeah,
That's where we're at. That's where we're at. But Adrian Newey, like all the props to him. I love Adrian Newey. He's a wizard. He's a genius. And he said, we knew that everybody was going to copy the RB19. We knew it. We could not just develop that car further. We had to take it another step. It just was
yeah.
not going to be enough for us to develop last year's car further. And they did. And it looks freaking fast. Maybe it's
Yeah,
not reliable, but I don't know. I'm guessing that it is reliable. But yeah, Red Bull, I think, is going to be hard to beat, and Max is going to be hard to beat. We're just in their era right now. We just are. It's
yeah.
going to be like
As much as I think it was Toto during the documentary, it's like, oh, it doesn't run in cycles. Yeah, there's cycles. This is a cycle. It's the Red Bull cycle right now.
everybody has cycles. Mercedes
Yeah,
had a cycle.
yeah,
Ferrari's had a cycle. Mercedes. Even if you look at other sports, Kansas City Chiefs, the Lakers
yeah.
at one point, the Boston Celtics, there's teams that do go through cycles, and they just get better and better and better. It happens. Right now, it's just the Red Bull, and sad to say in a way, but I think we're just going to be looking at a lot of more Red Bull wins this season. So
It was neat watching all the testing though, with all the way they do the testing, with all the equipment and everything.
yes. So let's talk about that because I know you have photos.
Yeah. That's so cool. And I really want to call out the site that I got these from. I don't know the photographers because it's just initials on it, but the website, it's a German website called Auto Motor und Sport. Und is and in German for the non-German speakers. So these are some really cool photos from various photographers who are there. Look at these things. Look at these different aero rakes. When I think aero rakes, when I first got into this last year, it was just the set that I would see that were like you see in this bottom picture on the left, if you're on our YouTube channel, that are like right behind the wheels, right?
Yeah.
And you see those out. But when I got into it, there's some behind the back of the car. Stake had them formed around the edge. There's these outside of RB, or Red Bull rather, that are just like right on the side of the motor, the intake of the motor. And then this off the Aston Martin, they're all over the place. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
All these different aero rakes and how they're getting all this equipment, which of course adds a lot of weight to the car as it's going around and some drag and whatnot. But I think it's fascinating to see. It's not one size fits all.
Yeah, I love that this year also. Ferrari did the same mistake where they had some that were formed to the car, and I think maybe in the same place. So that looks like it's right by the hood of the. Why am I drawing a blank on the name? The gear. Oh my gosh. Anyways, it's up there towards the top. It's still early here, like the sun is just coming up. But they had the same. So again, if you don't know what the aero rakes are or what they do, it really is a way for the teams to collect more data about how the air is flowing over the car out on track. It's one thing to get that data when you're in a simulator and how you think it's going to operate, how the air is going to flow around the car on track. But there's nothing like actually being out on track to see what's happening. So is this data the same as what they thought they were going to get from their simulator runs. It's so interesting to me. So interesting. And they were all over all the cars. I
Yeah, it's
love
fascinating. And then they have the flow-vis, right? So look
love
at this flow-vis. There's just a handful of pictures from flow-vis, and you can see on the back end of the McLaren, this one in the middle, the top middle, and if you're watching YouTube, is from the Red Bull. You can see below is it a side pod? Is it not a side pod?
Yeah.
The area. I love these on the Williams car. You can really
Yeah.
see that going across the suspension of the wheels. And then we talked about it last week. I was like, what color are they going to put on the state car? Because you can't put green. We see
Yes.
green. They used red flow-vis on there. So I had to grab a picture of that because I thought that was interesting to see it.
It was
Yeah,
funny because there were teams that used that neon green on their car, and I thought it was the state car, but it wasn't. It was
the
it was
car was so green. I saw that too because the car was just so green when it got off
so
off,
green. I can't
off
remember
the
if it was the R. Oh, it's gonna take me forever to RCAVB,
V
right?
carb.
V carb. All right, V carb, not R. V carb. I think maybe it was them, but there was so much green. I was like, "Oh, look at that state car go!" And it was like, "No, that is not the state car."
And
But
I
I
grabbed
do agree with you on here. The Flovis that they're showing on Alex's car, the Williams number 23, is so you can see like the purpose of this is to they slap this paint all over it and go out there, and how is that paint moving? And you can see the streaks, right, on both of those pictures of
Mhm.
Alex's car where, okay, where is it going? How is the air moving that across the car? So interesting.
Yeah, and two things you think of. One, also this middle bottom one, those are like some vents and whatnot. I thought it was neat to see that, to see how it goes in there. So you can see the air coming across like those vents. But
Yeah.
then my last one was like, then how do they get all this clean? Because they got to clean it. Somebody's got to clean it. And then
Yeah.
look at all the crevices where they've got to get it all cleaned out
Yeah.
and all intakes and all that it can't damage all the mechanics and whatnot. So more stuff to really dig into this year and explain some of the technicalities of the sport because it's quite fascinating.
Yeah. I think it's amazing. And I love like some of it's high tech, some of it's kind of low tech. I think
Yep.
Flowbiz is kind of like a low tech way, but it's very effective. They're getting
Mhm.
the data that they need. So love
Yeah,
that.
it's really fascinating. So yeah, so really a huge shout out to the Auto Motor and Sport in Germany website and all the photographers that contributed there because it's like AMS and DPE. I don't know who they were, but I want to call it out for us, graciously borrowing and calling out those because those are amazing shots.
Yeah, they really, really are. I love that. Well, let's talk about some of the teams. Just
Yeah,
kind of what we saw. Like Mercedes, both George and Lewis said they feel like it's on the right track, this car. But they're Red Bull's still a step ahead. So there's that. That's
yeah,
interesting. I think there was big news about them like adding a WhatsApp button to their steering wheel so they could talk to the drivers that way.
yeah.
And
I thought that was interesting.
I know. I'm like, are they really using WhatsApp? Like, or is it just a sponsor? I
I know.
honestly don't know. I
I
don't
think
know.
WhatsApp to talk to me. It's a lot easier than how we talk. Anyway, but yeah, it. I thought it was interesting too. I'm like, I use WhatsApp. Can I get in on that channel?
Yeah, how do we, somebody, here's the thing. If it really is WhatsApp, like somebody I'm sure can hack into that. Couldn't they?
Nah, I mean, WhatsApp is no different than you and I using Messenger. It's
Oh,
just another. I mean, WhatsApp is very similar to Messenger or chat or whatnot. I mean, it's just another
okay.
chat tool.
All right. Well,
Also
anyway.
owned by Meta. It's also owned by Facebook Meta. So,
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, one thing that I thought that Mercedes did that was,
let me preface it before I come out with people. Anything can be hacked. Yes, anything can be hacked. But it's anyway.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just that requires too much work for somebody. But one of the things that was pointed out during testing was Mercedes was giving themselves either for testing or to use during the season an I guess I would say like suspension options. So
Yeah.
they inserted a panel at the
Yeah.
front suspension and they placed it like at an angle this way at one point. They had it more like this at one point, trying different things without having to change like the whole chassis. So usually when you're doing those kind of changes with those suspension rods, this was at the front of the car. You have to change, like it requires you to change the whole chassis setup. This little cutout that they just like put in where you could just move the rods, so interesting. And I'm kind of like,
It's like you've got a transformer thing, and I wondered,
ah,
they were testing it. I wondered if they're going to keep that going forward,
that's what I was just
so
gonna
they
say.
change the suspension depending on the conditions of a track, and
Yeah.
not. I mean, I can see changing your suspension before each race, but you could be in the race and be like, this isn't working right, and just change it real quick. Like, oh my gosh, like that's
I
pretty
mean, that
innovative.
would be a very long pit stop. I don't think you would ever
No,
want to
I
do
mean like even I don't know, between or something, between
session.
between with a couple hours in between, but
Yeah, yeah,
whatnot.
yeah.
But
I see what
it's
you're
just
saying.
not as grandiose as taking the whole car apart, and changing the chassis out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, changing the chassis would be an entire, I mean, are you even allowed to change the chassis during the season? I don't know. I'm guessing yes. But anyways, I just thought this was so ingenious. And I
Fascinating.
thought the same as you, like, are they going to use this throughout the season, like to change it for a different track setup? Like, I am going to keep an eye on that because I thought that was so neat and very smart on somebody's part. Like, very, very smart. So we'll have to check in on Mercedes. Williams had some reliability issues early on, but they did seem to finish strong. So come on, Williams. I really, really, really want them to do well this year. I want them to kind of jump up quite a bit. Um, for Ferrari, Charles seemed really happy with the car. He said it reacted the way they wanted it to, and it's better than last year, what they started with last year. So, again, hoping that Ferrari, I mean, both he and Carlos had some fast times. You can't put a lot of stock in the times, I know, but they did. And they had some good reliability, seemed to be good. Like,
The consensus of a lot of the commentators, analysts, and something I'll show it a little bit later on is that Ferrari is the second best team this year.
okay, well, they were also the second best team last year after preseason testing, and we ended
Um,
up fourth. So I'm just saying. Just
like
saying.
I'm gonna laugh, I'll get into a coughing fit, but yes, that's true.
Yeah, okay, do not laugh. But it's true. It happened. And so, yeah, let's hope it doesn't. McLaren, I think McLaren has a lot more. I think a lot of teams have a lot more to show us, which we'll talk about in a second. But I think McLaren could be up there fighting for
I
like
think they,
the constructors.
I think they could be. What concerns about them is they were looking good at the end of last year, but they were having a few issues with the car, during
Yeah.
testing, and it just concerns me a little bit of, it has me reminiscent of Aston Martin, doing really good last year. Then they made a couple tweaks, and then they just tanked the car. It's like, what did you tweak over the break? What have you done
Yeah.
different on this that you did you screw something up? Which makes me hope that Aston Martin undid whatever juju that they did in Canada last year and actually has a competitive car this year.
Yeah.
I need Aston Martin, Mercedes to do well. Those are my two teams. I need them to do well.
Well, so Mike Crack, one of our favorite principals, said they got through their whole program. So, every team comes in with what they want to test and how they want to do it. They got through all of it. He felt that they were reliable. He thought that they are going to have a good start to the season, which they did last year. And then, like you said, it went downhill, but he feels like they had a very solid test. So I don't think we've seen everything that they can do. Again, they could be very competitive. It's going to be competitive in that second, third, fourth, maybe fifth spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they didn't push, like you said, that most people don't push hard during testing. If they didn't push, then they definitely have promise, because Fernando was putting in some pretty decent times, and when he pushed, it They
Yes,
seemed to
on
be
Friday.
pushing. It was looking pretty good. So,
Definitely
let's see.
Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm oh my gosh, I'm so excited about all of this. So there were a couple teams that are so the V carb team, Daniel said they're okay. They need to find some pace. They're not going to be the quickest car out of the box. So maybe they're not the RB19, or maybe he's just sandbagging. like because I feel like he and Yuki were kind of up there at different points.
There
As
was
far as
something, and I forget by who, that made me think it definitely wasn't the RB19. That it was like, we didn't do an exact copy, blah, 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 but
yeah,
I
no.
can't recall what it was.
So, which is good because I mean, that's one thing that we talked about. I mean, I didn't think that they could just copy exactly, but they can take some of those ideas. But you know
Yeah.
what team is like getting trashed right now? Alpine. Alpine. Everybody's saying they're going to be the slowest on the grid, probably next to Haas. So we'll give Haas that. But um, there's Pierre said it doesn't look great. There's room for improvement. The rumors are out there that the car's overweight. It's aerodynamically inefficient. It's slow both on like a quick lap and like race pace. like and supposedly some of their bigger engineers are going to be leaving the team. I feel like people maybe have seen like, yeah, this team does not have it going on right now. And they've just had that huge influx of, well, cash from all their celebrity investors. Like,
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds.
yeah, I just, oh, poor Alpine. It just does not sound good for them. It doesn't sound good for them at all. So,
Mhm.
and you hate to start like on the back foot. I almost feel like Alpine is the McLaren from last year. Like at testing last year, McLaren was like, we suck and we're not, we have all these upgrades that are coming, but not until, was what, 4 or 5 races in or something like that.
Summer. It's
I mean,
almost
I think
summer.
it's just, yeah, I know. When was Silverstone? Because it was like right before Silverstone but I mean, you don't want to start the season where you're already like, ew, this is this is not good. And now we have to play catch up.
You made me think just there. It definitely proves we're not really scripted. We have notes, but we're not scripted. I wonder if Alpine got so much play in the Netflix series because they had so much Hollywood influence in the team now.
I don't know. I feel like, I mean, other than Ryan Reynolds, they didn't really talk about all the people that came in after that,
That
because there
doesn't
was a whole group that came in after, but
Yeah, could be though. You never know. Anyway,
I feel like they
side
were
note.
more trying to push the whole like, well, the Otmar thing happened, and then so there was a little drama there, and then the whole like Ocon, Gasly, they grew up as kids and don't like each other. So
Yeah,
it's
I don't
like,
know. Just a weird thought.
yeah.
Conspiracying it.
But we'll
Anyway.
have to see. Like, I feel like I'm so excited because everything is possible right now. It's Monday, race week, our first race week. Anything could happen. Who's going to be on the podium? Who knows? We didn't see everything in testing, like we talked about. The teams will sandbag. They're going to complain. So no one truly knows what they have going on. I want to say the first real test is going to be this week, but at the same time, different tracks, cars are going to perform better on different tracks. So just because a team doesn't do well in Bahrain doesn't mean they won't necessarily do well in Saudi the following week. And we've
Yeah.
seen teams go like start out great, hello Aston Martin last year, and fall off, or McLaren at the bottom, and then shoot up.
Shine.
So
And while these are not new teams per se, because even though Danny joined a little late, they've been together for a while.
yeah,
They're newer cars, so it's going to be an interesting play. I'm struggling to figure out who I want on my fantasy team, and I might be a little more active on my fantasy team this year.
I
But
know. I need
yeah,
to. I haven't done a fantasy team yet, but I need to. But as far as
but
predictions go, like I can only say like Red Bull's going to win. Max is going to
yeah,
do great. There's your top two. But where everybody else is going to fall, that's why I'm so excited because it's like there's all these teams that I want to see out there. I want to see Williams. I want to see if they've progressed. Is Alpine as bad as they say? Is Haas just going to do the Haas thing? Like, where are these other teams going to fall?
And I have that chart if you want me to show it now that I got
Oh,
from
yes,
F1.
I forgot about that. Yes, please.
This is the simulation pace that they're doing from the data from the weekend, of course, and predictions and whatnot that the F1 and experts have come up with. F1.com is saying based on what they think is going to be quali this week.
I'm really
And
excited to see Williams.
look what high Alpine is. And they've got Williams and Haas at the bottom, Sauber and Alpine, kind of tied there at the bottom. But then Aston Martin, they've got VCARB up higher. And then Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari.
Wow. And look at McLaren ahead of Mercedes, who finished last year second in the constructor, don't forget. That's really interesting. It's interesting to see the VCARB up there ahead of Aston Martin.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot of
Williams to be so low.
Yeah.
They have Williams like second to last, with Haas being last, but Williams second to last? Like, what? I feel like we switch to Alpine Sauber and put Williams there. So move Alpine Sauber down. Haas can still be at the bottom. Alpine Sauber down. They're tied plus 1.03 seconds behind the Red Bull is what the simulation pace is saying. Then move the Williams there and then flip the Aston Martin and the Red Bull. That's how I would do it, but what do I know?
Yeah, look at that. They've got Aston Martin a 0.12 seconds fully behind VCARB or RB or whatever the heck you want to call them.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. I don't know, but see, that's where I don't put a lot of stock into the times, but they, I'm sure these experts have their formula, but will the Red Bull VCARB team be that far up? Oh my gosh. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd be so excited for Yuki and Daniel. Like,
yeah,
that would be incredible. But yeah, craziness.
Crazy.
Woo! Well, it's race week.
I can't believe we've talked almost an hour. Oh my gosh.
I know. So let's get through this. It's crazy. Okay. So like I said, we've got back to back. So we're Bahrain, then we're Saudi, then we have a week off, which is good because I have a spring training game. And then we're back at it. So here's what you need to know about racing in Bahrain. It's on Saturday. Don't forget the first 2 weeks, the back-to-back, we're racing on Saturday. So you've got Thursday is FP1 and FP2, Friday, FP3 and quali, and then Saturday is the race. For me, quali's at 9 a.m. and I don't have a meeting and on Friday, and then Saturday the race is at 8 a.m. So I'm super, super excited that it's not ridiculous time for me.
Midnight for me.
Oh, shoot.
I'm on sick leave, so that's fine. I'll stay.
There you go. There you go. Okay. If you're on our YouTube channel, you're going to see the Bahrain track that Claire has pulled up for us. Here's what we got. 57 laps. There's 3 DRS zones, and it's 5.412 kilometers per lap. They go clockwise, right? So that's all cool. They did preseason testing on this track. So if you didn't know where they did that, it was here. So hopefully some of the cars will be real dialed in and like fully optimized for race day. The elements can be tricky in Bahrain. So not only do you have the wind, so we'll talk about that at different corners, but it kind of changes directions. And so in an 1.5 hour race or maybe up to 2 hour race, the wind can be changing direction. You have a wide range of temperatures. So like when you're doing practice or when you're doing quali is going to be very different from when you're racing under the lights at night. So it's kind of hard to fully dial in your car when you're dealing with all these different temperature changes. So there's that. And like I said, they go at night. They run at night.
Then we have the train.
Is it supposed to rain?
No, the drain.
Oh, the drain. Yes, we have to find the drain. Yes.
The drain issue. Hopefully that doesn't rear its head again.
Please no. Please no. We do not want that. It's a rough track, so they are going to be using some of the harder compounds as far as tires go, and we'll probably see more tire deg. So that could be tricky as you get, you got to plan your stops. I don't know. I feel like this is a one stopper. It's only 57 laps. And if you're using the harder tires, hopefully one, I don't remember what they did last year, if it was one or two.
Yeah, I remember. That's a good point. With it being the harder tires, I think it should only be one stop.
Yeah. Wait, can you pull that back up again? Because I do want to talk, like, for people that are watching the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So turn 10 down there in sector 2, kind of just past the DRS zone, that's a little bit tricky. If you were watching testing, you saw that turn. It's a very, like, you're putting on the brakes and turning. It's also a little bit downhill. So it can be a little bit tricky there. When they start coming into 11, turn 11, so there's a long straight there, and then they come into turn 11, that can be very windy. And then you go to turn 12, sort of a turn there, and that's a little bit uphill, but it's super, super quick. So as you're coming through that, you can also get hit with wind. So there's all these different areas, especially right in there, turn 10, 11, 12, where you can be dealing with wind, but also some different elevations. So a little bit downhill at 10, a little bit uphill at 12. So you've got all of that stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I think we should
Correction. Two stops.
Two stops. Two stop. Okay, two stops.
Yeah, I'm looking at last year's race, and I see Russell did 2 stops, Ocon did 3, Leclerc did 2, Max did 2.
Okay, so
several that did 3 though, like Albon, Gasly, Yuki, Sargent, Mag, Nico, Zhou did 3. Lando did 5. Well, Lando did 6 actually. He was having car problems.
Lando had issues last year. Remember his poor thing. But you know what's interesting is you're saying a lot of those teams that did 3 are teams that are towards the bottom. So maybe the tire degradation. I don't remember the specifics, but maybe that's what that was.
Most everyone did 2.
Okay, so we're looking at 2 stops. There should be a lot of overtaking. We've got 3 DRS zones, so hopefully we'll see some action on the track. But I think we're all just excited to get back out there and really see what these cars, what they can do on this track.
I'm excited.
I'm so excited.
We're back. We're back.
We're back. Back in Bahrain. I cannot wait. I just cannot wait. So yeah, next week we'll be talking about what happened.
Yep. And then on to the next one. And we're just starting to count down to Barcelona. So we're just getting there.
Yeah. Yay.
All right. Well, it's so good to see you. I'm finally talking about an upcoming race. Yay.
I know. Cannot wait. Tell us your predictions. Hit us up in, I don't know, all Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Tell us your predictions. We're going to be thinking through ours, and we will post our predictions on race day. Who will be on the podium?
Oh, gosh, that's going to be so tough.
I know.
Oh, my gosh.
I have no idea. I'm going to have to wait until practice and quali.
Yeah, me too. Oh, my gosh. You know what? We need to start our fantasy league, too. So
yeah, I've got to get on that. Things to do this week, people. Get on your fantasy teams. Let's go.
All right. We'll see you then. All right. Thanks for coming along on this long ride, but it's a good one.
Bye.
See ya. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and a review. To stay up to date with She Loves the Grid and get all the behind-the-scenes content, you can follow us on Instagram at She Loves the Grid and on Facebook at facebook.com/SheLovesTheGrid. Thank you for joining us for the ride this week.